concerned about trouble and trying to be responsible, one-sided news stories.
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hey everyone on YouTube and this week on Facebook. It's Dave and Ryan, December 1773. This is the weekly show, all the week's hottest topics with a twist. As always, click in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching on Facebook, stop it, go to YouTube and watch it there. Facebook is all that is bad with social media. Not that YouTube's much better, but it's a little better.
I heard you can't say the T word on on YouTube rather, because they'll demonetize you.
Yeah.
Put you down in the algorithm. T word being TRUMP.
If you say it on Facebook, they just won't let anybody see anything. So I guess it's all the same.
Yeah, they just push down the algorithm. So engage.
I'm going to say it anyway. Trump. You're not supposed to say Trump on YouTube.
Yeah, Trump. Push it. They recommend former president. So I think that's why Trump's trying to rebrand himself as 45 so that he can beat the algorithm.
Well, then,
it's not by coincidence.
Then they just change it to 45. You can't say 45. I mean, they're always going to be on top of it. So
they wouldn't do that, Dave.
This week
sounds like moving the goalposts.
This week, as always, we're going to do our headlines segment, but we're probably going to do, as we call it, speed lines. We're going to go through them pretty quick because we have the two big police officer incidents. We have the Chauvin trial, which has finally reached a verdict, and we have the Ma'Khia Bryan incident. So I want to get to those two things for sure. Ryan's going to have his December-tainment, as he always does at the end of the show, something to help us wind down, because I'm sure we, as all of you, will get riled up. So, with that said, you ready to get into it?
Yeah. And I want to say that, speaking of getting wound up, you reminded me of like really how high profile this was, and this really is like bigger than OJ, bigger than some of these other ones we've had recently, Michael Jackson and stuff, Bill Cosby. Like, this is just all those were ants compared to
it would be like
this.
At the very least, it's as big as OJ, I would imagine.
No,
I wasn't.
They did not riot on the halfway across the globe for O.J. Simpson like they did for George Floyd.
Oh, it's because they were white people. The demonetized. Shut it down.
Hey,
nobody can see it.
This is a comedy podcast.
I hope you're watching live, because you won't be able to go back and review this. Before I get us kicked off of social media entirely, which is usually Ryan's job. Headlines. 2 dead after driverless Tesla slammed into a tree, burst into flames. And also, it took 4 hours for firefighters to extinguish the fire. Little known fact about electric cars, they burn forever.
Sounds environmentally friendly.
No, I'm sure it's fine. All that lithium being burned into the air. So Elon Musk has come out and talked about this, and he said that the car was not autonomous at the time of its accident. I'm sure they went in and pulled the records. I'm sure there's data in there. You can do that on most cars now. You can go in and see what happened when an accident happened. But I don't know. I don't know about this. Not that I don't trust Elon Musk, but even if we're not talking about it driving itself into a tree, the fact that it burned for 4 hours, I think that'll bring insight to some people who don't really know that much about electric cars.
Can you imagine a pile of those, or a dealership of those?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. When we get to the point when these are all the vehicles on the road.
Tractor trailer.
What do you do when a big tractor trailer piles up with another 17 cars in Texas because it's an icy highway?
Yeah, I mean they got the driverless Mercedes-Benz trucks. Yeah. whatever.
I got
Maybe
nothing against it.
aliens hacked it. That's the only reasonable explanation.
I'm not against autonomous cars. I'm not against electric cars, but just some things people should be aware of. This stuff is going to be more topic of conversation as they get more and more common. So, people have talked about how they're going to be. I think you've talked about this specifically. I don't know if this was on this program or not, but these cars are going to be programmed to kill you in some instances.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what happens if that would have killed somebody? Who would have been default?
It did. It killed 2 people. The driver and the passenger both died. I suppose
I'm sorry.
fault. No, they've talked about this. There's also court precedents that have been set. So if like something happens autonomous and it starts speeding or something, you're still in control of the vehicle even though it's autonomous. You're supposed to be monitoring and making sure all these things aren't happening. You're supposed
Has anybody seen the movie I, Robot?
Yes. I'm not too worried about it.
You're not worried about it?
No. Bring it on.
Right. Bring on, dude. You want robots and monkeys with brain chips to rule the world?
Yeah, that's right. See, here's the thing. I'm gonna have the brain chip. I'm gonna be the robot. So let's be clear. We talked about on this program. Not to brag, I did coin the term woke supremacy. You have coined plenty of terms. I want at least one. Headlines. Senator Rick Scott. Dear woke corporate America, beware of the backlash that's coming.
Oh, I'm sure they're scared.
They're not. Because, quite frankly, because people like me who are still, I got 2 liters of Coke downstairs. I don't care. Be less white. That's great. I'll be as little white as possible. Coke is delicious.
Not making Coke any less white. What the fuck do I care?
I did joke that I've been boycotting the MLB, but it has nothing to do with the Georgia voting laws. I just hate watching baseball.
Is it because there's not enough fights?
Oh yeah, that's part of it. It's it's terrible. It's next to golf on the boring sports list. I can't watch baseball. It's terrible. Football, hockey, I'm in. Baseball, I can't do it.
I was talking about basketball, and it's like I can watch the highlights, but that's about it.
I can do a little bit of basketball.
Just the highlights, bro.
I'm sure
the rest of it.
I'm sure we'll talk about LeBron James at some point. But yeah, this woke America thing. I don't know. Have you ever stopped purchasing a product over some wokeism?
Yeah, I actually did this before it was a cool thing, and before people put it on the internet.
Was it the store?
It was the store.
The store.
Yeah, the store.
People don't
literally a whole place. Not a brand, not anything else. Like a whole actual fucking corporation. I try my damnedest to not walk into a Walmart, and if I do, I feel like I should throw my shoes out afterwards. But
Ryan goes as far as to not call it Walmart. The one time, this is when we first met each other. He was talking about the store or whatever. I was like, I don't know what store you're referring to. He's like, I don't like to say the word.
It's the store, man. It's like Wally World. It's the... Yeah, so when the SAFE Act passed, Walmart, along with Dick's as well, fuck Dick's too.
Do what? What now?
Can't believe we're trying with this thing. All right, now that we're off the rails. Walmart stopped selling ammunition and firearms after the Sandy Hook massacre and after New York State started passing the SAFE Act laws and I started getting politically active and stuff. And my response is, all right, I looked at it like I always do, and the same thing I'll defend. Other people's actions infringe on my actions and, basically go F off. I said I wouldn't support the company, and I have done that with a high degree of success for many, many years now. And that is, and that's where I learned, like, really that you pay with your dollars in voting, and it's the most powerful form of voting you have. I talk of social currency. Well, that's like literally currency, but like that's voting. So, yeah, I don't go to Walmart.
Do you expect anything to come from this, Rick Scott?
No, dude. If people really cared that much about things, like it would be a different world. Like, once again, maybe this might wake up some people, like, because they're not breaking this down. They're saying woke corporations and stuff. What they should really be talking about is what I just told you, is that you vote with your dollars. But they don't want to tell you that because they don't want you to be educated consumers. They just want you to consume. So it goes against their business models. So now it's sad to see that we have now watched companies become political. Chick-fil-A was political for their gay stance a few years ago. There's been numerous other ones, Hobby Lobby and birth control. I mean, there's been various over the years, but now, everything seems accelerated. So that's what I don't like about this, is that we're going to be having, what are we going to have, Republican and Democrat buy and don't buy lists? You know what I mean? Like, we're going to self-segregate when it comes to our choices. Segregation isn't, oh, this is so awesome. Segregation isn't done by law anymore. It's done by social justice.
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely make that case. I mean, there's black-only dating sites, black-only colleges. There's, you can even go as far as talk about segregation of sexes. Male-only sports, female-only sports.
They're not female-only sports, David. They're female plus sports because nobody's joining men's sports. There's nobody changing sex and joining men's sports. It's the other way around.
They would lose.
Yeah, because we have different standards as men. Exactly. Moving along before we're demonetized further by left-wing socialist activists.
I vow to you this video. I wanted to do every 10 episodes on Facebook. I vow to you 50 will not be there.
Yeah, we probably won't even be there for 42.
Headlines. We talked about Kamala Harris a couple weeks ago, how she was taking over the border because it was the Biden-Harris administration, and Harris was going to be all over it. Kamala Harris isn't at the southern border, but this is the good news. Migrant kids keep getting her book. Superheroes are everywhere. Yeah, she has a book. Did you know about the book?
Is this fucking real?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know she could write.
Oh. No, she... Well, I don't know if she wrote it, but, it's her book.
It's amazing the woman that went from marriage to marriage is going to try to elect the borders of this country.
I think the book is funny because I'll admit I have not been at the southern border, much like our vice president. I don't think the people in I'm not going to say cages, detention facilities, holding centers. I don't remember what they call them. I don't know if they speak English.
So they're printing a book in Spanish to give it to people entering the country illegally?
I don't know because it didn't specify. So I don't know if they're getting an English book and just looking at the pictures like, who's this asshole?
There's pictures in a book? They make pictures?
Well, it's a kid's book.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Superheroes Are Everywhere. It's to propagandize the children of this country. Much like the public education system.
And then we wonder why we have communists amongst our group here.
Ron, you're going to love this next headline. This is where we're hitting the tipping point of the headlines where my comedy's going out the window and Ryan is going to just start getting mad. Headlines. MIT researchers. Risk of contracting COVID-19 indoors is the same at 6 feet and 60 feet.
What the fuck?
6 feet.
That's the whole world.
60 feet is
That's the whole world, Dave.
Indoors.
That's the whole world, David.
So do we need to do 61-foot social distancing?
How the fuck? What, I gotta throw footballs for dinner? Dude, how can...
So we talked about last week how the entire premise of the surface, how it can spread on a surface, was proven false months after we already went down the road. It was too late. There was no turning back. We're a year after this whole social distancing, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We're a year into this. We got vaccines, double masks, and now we're learning that 6 feet, 60 feet doesn't make any difference. Trust the science, though. We're the party of anti-science.
Social distancing isn't working, so we need to increase it. Okay, how much? By 10 times. What? What the fuck is wrong with these people? Who is this? What educated piece of shit is this guy? What fucking bullshit college?
Well, this is MIT. So
go fuck. We should burn MIT to the ground fiscally.
Well, they're just doing the actual science. They're the
What
ones
science?
who actually.
How are they?
They're the ones who actually studied this and said, "Wow, look at this! It's no different." I don't know why it took a year to find this. How long does it take to study this?
61 feet social distancing.
For the record, they did not recommend 61-foot social distancing. They were just stating it's the same at 6 and 60. Which
So
is
bring
the same at is it same at 3 feet and 60 feet? Like, is there any difference there? I mean, what's the extra 3 feet?
I forget who I was talking to, but bringing up the whole surface thing, the mask doesn't make sense then, right? Because they tell you to wash your hands when you touch the mask. They tell you to wash it before you put it on. I don't do any of that. I put the thing on. I wear the same mask I always have fucking worn. You know why? Because I didn't think it was going to be transmittable. And you know what? It's not transmittable. And the mask doesn't even work.
Most people don't really care because when they put the mask on, they do it for theater. So the actual science of how a mask works is irrelevant. I mean,
That's right. It's just to make it
stupid
feel
little
safe.
cloth masks and everything. They're not doing anything. Come on. We're not walking around with legit biohazard.
You're right, dude. This is like having a rape whistle in prison.
Oh, that would be very effective.
You think so, dude?
I mean, you'd be blowing it a lot.
What if I was a white police officer with a rape whistle in prison?
Well, I guess we're gonna find out what happens there soon.
We should have a bet right now. Who dies first, Ghislaine Maxwell or Derek? The cop.
Chauvin.
Yeah,
Chauvin. Yeah.
I can barely say that.
Maxwell's still hanging in there. She pled not guilty, by the way, to her most recent charges, as you would expect she would.
I'm full of pedophiles.
Did you hear about this? The missing cryptocurrencies?
Doge to the moon.
Headlines: Crypto exchange founder disappears with $2 billion. This was in Turkey. He ran an exchange in Turkey, and he just took the money and ran. $2 billion. Gone.
Seems legit.
Yeah.
Does that coincide with the downfall of Bitcoin and Dogecoin this past week?
I don't know. I don't know if that would have anything to do with it, because I don't know how that affects the actual... I mean, it would have to have some effect, but I don't know if it's a massive effect.
I don't think they'd state how much money the guy had unless it was relevant.
So...
Hey, this guy with a lot of money just disappeared.
For anyone wondering, you can still get robbed, even in the electronic money world.
FDIC backing and reassured. They don't guarantee your asset and all that crap. Because I need the government's reassurance to conduct business.
I assure you have seen this. Headlines: U.S. Postal Service is secretly keeping tabs on American social media posts as part of a covert operations program, sharing the data with Homeland Security. Why is the Postal Service doing this and then sharing the data with Homeland Security? Why isn't first of all, I'm not for it either way, but why wouldn't Homeland Security just do it? Why are they having the post office do it? Seems like a weird...
It's called plausible deniability, David. It's unelected officials. We don't
Homeland
elect.
Security's not elected either. Most of our government's not elected.
They gotta have the plausible deniability though. So when like post office like wasn't doing it, it's just a Homeland Security directive, and then they're like, well, Homeland Security, who did it? They're like, I don't know. George Bush passed it in a executive action in 2006. You know what I mean? Like, we can't even keep up with what they're dishing us. So, yeah, this does not surprise me. If I read that article, it literally boiled my fucking blood, because they talk about how the police of the post office are like looking into things and like making sure. It's just like your data is the most important thing you have. It's more important than your money. It's more important than your bank account. This data that we have in our phone and all our digital devices is literally like DNA for the 22nd century, which would be 2100 and forward, because they're going to use it to build all of the algorithms, search databases, all the geo-tracking locations. All the things they're going to use for advertisement and commercial revenue is going to be tied to what we're putting into it right now. We are literally building the artificial intelligence and matrix that will service us in the future. So that's why they want this data. That's why they're going to go through whatever they do. It is like fucking priceless because, once again, they don't have a value on a stream and they don't have a value on your data yet because they don't know how much shit they can actually do with your data. It is like it's unlimited what they can do with it. Because they have your location, they have where you go, your height, your elevation, your weight, what you ate, who you're with, the stores you're at, what you're buying. It's all tagging. It's insane. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me. The mail, if they're circumventing this level at the mail, that's crazy. I mean, that's like physical, hands-on kind of level here for them to be monitoring. I mean, the people that are delivering my mail are now monitoring my social media. I want to know how that is even legal, let alone anything else, because I'm told that Facebook is a publisher and a platform. Well, how the fuck can the post office monitor my social media account? And even further, Homeland Security, with it being tied in there, is probably their bullcrap loophole that they're using. Because they just have, all they got to do is say terrorism.
So I don't...
And they're going to link this to the Capitol riots. I'm sure that's how they're going to catch these people. Because what you're really seeing here is you're really seeing the death of the old-fashioned way of communication. Because they're monitoring the most physical thing, a letter. I mean, Game of Thrones celebrated 10 years anniversary today, right? Well, in that story, they used to tie shit to a raven and fly it out a window. You know what I mean? There was no email. Like that, they're basically killing that form of it if they're able to monitor it and then cross-check it with a person. And I mean, they're going to tie this into drugs, I'm sure, and other things, but this is just the beginning of this. We'll see a expedition of this at the federal power.
I almost wonder if this is big tech slowly giving themselves an out in case things go south for them about selling personal data.
Big tech's not going to get caught, though.
Well, they've been caught.
They're not going to be charged, rather, because
sure,
we can't put a value on the damage. We can't put a value on the damage of the information they're taking. So even if we find them guilty, even if we tell Zuckerberg, your action's direct, Congress can fine them and tax them and whatever, but we actually don't know what my data that I put in Facebook, when it's leaked, what that will actually mean 20 years from now. I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's what I mean. Our data now is building that matrix. And that's what happens when your shit's leaked. It's like the future you digitally, not just right now. I mean, I've heard things about chicks on OnlyFans that try to scrub their accounts. They can't do it. You can't do it on the internet. Well, what does a leak do on the internet, the dark web, and all these other things that... Dark 8chan, Red, all these things I'm told to fear by mainstream media, 8chan and shit. They're trading all these things. This is the future. This is your future data at risk. This is your future self. When you're more established, when you have more credit, when you own a house, when you own a car. Like the things that can get slowly stolen from you. I mean, we don't have value on data. So even if we charge them, even if we take them to court, it's not enough. Because it's exponential.
I guess you would also probably agree that your civil liberties are invaluable. I mean, there's no way you could ever put a value on that.
Yeah, they're the most valuable.
And this is
worth your life. Like, how many things are worth your life? Your family's worth your life every time. The average person, yeah. So your civil liberties should be right there, man, because they give you your family. Like their synopsis, like autonomy is a liberty. Like the ability to be a free individual. Yeah, they're invaluable. You can't quantify. I can't put a value. So when you gut the Constitution or gut people's liberties, it's literally liberty once lost is never restored, because we keep defining what a liberty is, and we're gonna hone in on this thing. It's gonna be a very narrow window of its former, environment. And this is all this. This is the death by 1,000 cuts. This is the erosion of your data. We should actually have right to data privacy. That should be in the First Amendment. Or the Fourth Amendment, rather.
Well, that's all a good...
Unlawful search and seizure. I mean, you actually do. Your personal effects. Your persons and effects. That's what the Constitution states. My effects is my iPhone data. Like, I pay for the phone, I bought the phone, I pay for the service. I mean, everything is tied to me. Like, that's my effects. When that data is leaked, they actually violate your civil liberties. We'll go a step further when your data is leaked and breached. So, by extension, Facebook has definitely violated everyone's civil liberties when they have leaked data. Minimum, let alone censorship.
This all leads perfectly to our next headline. Headlines. America's vaccine database could lead to confusion and misuse. You don't say.
There you go. My favorite thing you just said. Let's take database, right, and apply it to a gun right. You can't get a gun unless you get a vaccine. You can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your vaccine. I didn't mean to tie it to gun control. But databases. That's the fear of registration with guns, is that they have this database, a secret list of people. And now vaccines have always been on that list in the conspiracy realm, but they're talking about fake vaccine passports, and there was another couple pauses on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and they put a warning label on there that some women may get blood clots. So they've already had a double print. It's just trust the science, but move the goalposts. But so did they say what the confusion was going to be, David?
Hold on. What are you doing? Nolan. Jesus fuck. What the hell are you guys doing?
Nolan's ready for bed. He was falling asleep, so I got him a shower and brushed his teeth for going to bed.
Okay.
Did I scare you? You jumped.
Come here, Goob.
Give Daddy a kiss and hug.
Don't go on camera, though.
Oh, he's making.
That's okay. Just don't go on camera. Come here. Come here.
Just blow him a
You'll
kiss.
be off camera. Come here.
Just blow him a kiss.
We'll be off camera. Come on.
Just blow him a kiss. If you don't want to go in, fine.
I'm not looking.
This is literally a sheet. You can't see through the sheet.
Give him a kiss. Hurry. We gotta get jammies on.
Get some jammies. Love you. Swear to God.
You jumped.
That was good, dude.
Freaking look over and there's a naked kid running around.
Did it say what kind of confusion was going to be caused with the vaccine database?
Well,
I didn't know there was a vaccine database. Because last I knew, the database
there wasn't.
was when I would go to my doctor and they asked me,
let's be clear. Let's be clear. There probably is, but I think this was in reference to the feelers that the Biden-Harris administration put out about the vaccine passports and stuff.
Oh, you mean this is Overton window, David? Ah.
So in order to start the vaccine passport, you got to have a database so you know the people that, and then they were going to do it through phone apps.
They just federalize it.
Well, so it's federalized and it's privatized because now there's phone companies involved, and there's everybody involved in all this data. So I guess that's part of the confusion.
We can't put a value on it. The data that they're fucking all linking together to.
No,
this is fantastic.
This is invaluable. This is civil liberties. These are gone. But I really like this next one because I was told a while ago.
They don't want people to vote with ID, but you want me to have an ID for biological immunities. They won't ID. They don't ID people at the fucking southern border. They put them in a box and wait.
So to that point, I think it's interesting.
Without a fucking mask.
It's interesting. Poor people, right? This is what we're told. This is the ID thing inadvertently affects the poorest among us because they can't get IDs, even though in the states where they have these laws, they're free. We're told that, but these same people who can't get an ID, a government ID, which will be free in their state that has these laws,
because voting for right
is expected to have smartphones, so they could be traced for their COVID vaccines, so they can travel out of state through towns, through counties. Where does it stop?
Leaving his house, 61 feet social distancing.
Leaving the house, got to call the government in Greece. We talked about all of this.
Yeah, oh my God. Smartphones will be a right, so they'll able to be enforcing their social distance, and it will beep when you're too close to somebody. Your phone will vibrate. Mm-hmm, please back up there, not a member of your household.
If you're within 60 feet social distance, guys.
Yeah. Beep in your ear. Be aware, you are around people not in your household. None of them have masks on. Your increase of infection has increased 70%. Please use caution and wash your hands. I mean, what level? I mean, really, really. Yeah, they're gonna have to say cell phones are a right. A smartphone is a human right to give
But-
people that vaccine passport, or we're gonna have paper variants, which
And
we
this-
see how that well works, considering there's already fraud happening with the vaccine passports that they're trying to make, or those cards rather.
So this next upcoming headline, I thought it was interesting because we were told that this term, and we'll get to the term. We were told that this term wasn't a real thing. It wasn't science. That it's not truth. That there's no reality behind it. But I thought this was interesting. Headlines: COVID cases are suddenly falling in 4 hard-hit northeastern states. Does that mean herd immunity is on the way? Heard what? I was told herd immunity wasn't real.
I thought we had to redefine herd immunity. It's weird. It's weird we got different definitions of things, David.
Right? Isn't this strange? Didn't everyone make fun of Sweden for the herd immunity stance they took?
Yeah, it's because
And they were
mostly white people.
and they were supposed to have thousands of people dead, and they had whatever it was. After 6 months, everyone expected they'd be wiped out, and they were doing way better than most of the European nations, especially the Scandinavian nations. I don't know, the herd immunity thing, I was told that this isn't real, even though we knew it was real based on other viruses. We know this is true.
Let me ask you a serious question. How the fuck can we take Europe seriously when they almost destroyed the world twice with their civil wars?
Well,
I mean, they let Hitler walk into Paris. You're gonna lecture me on COVID. These guys, they're all fucking assholes. It doesn't surprise me that there's herd immunity, considering, I don't know, we all came from freaking the same place with the same. It's crazy. It's crazy that they can print one thing and contradict themselves, but still enforce all these lockdowns and mandates and these arbitrary rules that move goalposts. And define science that they say we don't trust. The same science they tell us to trust, they contradict it.
many times.
Yeah, and then they can't be held accountable because, they're not elected or they're just on a payroll. It's like you being a bad McDonald's employee at that point.
Well, at least they can get fired.
The guy at McDonald's has a higher probability of losing his job than Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, you've been overcooking the fries too many times. I've had this talk. You're done. Fauci, however, he is held to a very different standard than the McDonald's employee. Fauci making as much as the president of the United States is held to a much lower standard than the employee at McDonald's.
He makes more than the president.
I don't remember. What's the president make now? 4 something.
It's like 5 something, and Fauci's close to
yeah. It's close enough.
Yeah, I mean they're just elitist.
This unelected guy that nobody even likes. Nobody likes him. People on the left don't even like him.
And does people also realize that the president only makes like $500,000 a year, but is the most powerful man in the world that talks to like people that are worth trillions of dollars of royalty and wealth in other nations? Doesn't. Go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
Well, that's what I had for the headline segment of today. Now, I didn't know if we should do Chauvin first or Mackay Bryant. Is it Mackay Bryant? What's Mackay?
Do that one first.
Mackay Bryant?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mackay Bryant, is everyone familiar with this? This was the woman who was, as the leftist media would say, was holding a knife. The young girl who was just holding a knife when she was shot by the police. She was just holding the knife, Ryan.
Why was she holding a knife, David?
Oh, well, she was stabbing somebody with it.
I thought she was just holding the knife, David.
Well, she was holding it while she stabbed somebody.
Was she holding or stabbing somebody, David?
Well, she was holding while she was stabbing.
Okay, so what happened? She got shot and killed.
Well, yeah, she was stabbing somebody, and the officer shot her.
Was she stabbing for fun, or she was not trying to kill somebody, apparently?
No, she was violently stabbing another individual. Another black female.
Okay. So it was a black on black crime. Someone called that.
Well, yes.
Okay. Woke supremacists would say that's white supremacy. So,
well, yeah, because a white officer killed the black female while saving the other black female.
So he's good. That's 0, right? Positive, negative.
I don't. No, he should have killed nobody. He should have.
He should have killed them both.
He should have disarmed her like Batman.
All of our cops are. We want all of our cops to be Batman. I don't know if we want that. That'd be scary.
No, he should have just disarmed her. I mean, there's teachers in schools that do it, which is what we're told.
Teachers in school that teach my kid that self-defense is a bad thing.
If this is not the most ideal situation, like if you cannot point to one situation of a police shooting, is this not the one you would point to and say this is the definition of a justified use of force?
Yeah, there was like an extended video part that I saw. Ben Shapiro broke it down. Kudos to him, like always. Once again, you know, Dave and I here in the podcast, we let them kind of figure it out, and obviously that's the benefit of having a weekly show, is that you don't have to dissect everything every day. But yeah, there's like a second angle that shows like even a bigger encounter before the, you know, because you mostly see like the angle from her behind going to stab the chick, but there's like one that's across the street from like a local surveillance camera. It's probably like a Ring doorbell or something. I'm not endorsed by Ring, but one of those. I'm looking forward to it though. Yeah. So there's been alternate cameras, and I'm sure people are gonna riot and burn still. You know, this. It's a shame to say that you are not innocent until proven guilty anymore. You know, like, and there is no more reasonable doubt. And I think that was killed during the court hearing this week too.
Well, and here's the thing with that trial. Many people who are up, you know, in the upper tiers of the leftist politicians and entertainers and whatever, they all said that the Chauvin trial was the beginning of a new era here. This
they want to federalize.
This was just the beginning. So, you know, it doesn't take much to say, well, if Chauvin was just the beginning, we're already traveled to a very clearly justified shooting is now police brutality. It's just, you know, white men shooting black, you know, people for no reason. You know, this is what the story is going to be. So I don't know, where do you go? I mean, at what point?
I think where you go is it. I don't want to say this. I mean, whatever. Fuck it. It already happens. But I mean, what's the solution? That you hire only black cops or only minorities, and then what? They're allowed to justifiably beat up and murder white people when they're called to save them, and say that this is justified because of racial inequality or racial equity. Well, I mean, when do we stop? I told we've already talked. Russia came out a few weeks ago. Not that I give a fuck about them Slavic pricks, but Russia came out, talked about the rise of anti-white racism is brewing. You know, the other races. This is expected, and then you're gonna nationalize police, which, let's be clear, the big bloated government we have barely works. I mean, it does work. It works pretty well considering everything, but the level of corruption, and you're saying all these systems are bad, and your solution is to give it to a bigger system with more moving pieces. That's harder to manage. That's harder to hold accountable. That's harder to put a dollar value on. That's harder to like actually have positive local change. Because the real reason, what we should be looking at, it's really a shame that things can go national with phones, man. Because, you know, 20, 30 years ago, that might have got national attention or something, but not, you know, obviously the connection. But everything's getting the national attention because things can go viral, but that would have been more localized, and the solution would have been more localized, government locally and statewide. You know, there probably would have been federal outreach to the state, but it would have been handled more intimately, you know, and give the family some privacy per se, or like just like the people who had trauma might be able to grieve differently. Once again, I mean, think about the people involved in that, the family, that data. Right, that data, that experience, that trauma is on photographs and videos for the rest of their life. Yeah. Talk about unmeasurable to value. That could ruin them. They can always relive this trauma. Like if we talk, let's add emotion to it. You know, think of the children. I mean, seriously. But yeah, it's crazy that whether it's justified or not, it has been turned into every shooting is now like a political stance. You know.
So I said back when the Breonna Taylor stuff was going on, I said, the solution seems pretty simple. Every officer gets a body cam, and it's always on. You don't turn it off ever. You might turn it off when you go home. You know what I mean? Maybe not even that. Leave it on in the locker room. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but just you have a body cam, and that should be the end of it. But we've seen recently multiple instances now where a body cam has done nothing. We have what seems to be a very clearly justified shooting on cam. And I mean, what more do you want to see out of the body cam? She's stabbing another individual. She gets shot. That's it. That's the end of it. That seems like a pretty reasonable thing. But to go a step further, now we have, if you look at the Chauvin trial, the body cams did nothing because we have a person that we know, based on a toxicology report, had 11 milligrams of fentanyl in his system, which is, and I'll admit, there's no, if you have 2 milligrams of fentanyl in your system, everybody dies. That's not how it works. It fluctuates. It's like alcohol. Some people tolerate it differently. But at best, he was 3 times a lethal limit of fentanyl in his system. That guy would have overdosed that night regardless. Nothing would have changed. But we saw on body cams, and it was used against the officer. Well, when he was restraining him, he kept saying, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." Well, why wouldn't you just let him up at that point? Well, if you look at the whole body cam footage, he was saying it the whole time. He was trying to get him into the car. He can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Okay, we'll get you on the ground. He says, "Put me on the ground." He requested it. They go to put him on the ground. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. At what point do you think the guy's just being hysterical? I mean, you don't know all these things are happening at this time. So to me, the trial, I mean, the guilty verdict on all accounts to me was just a total shock because, again, I said many times, I'm not necessarily saying Chauvin handled everything the right way, but you can't possibly put the responsibility of George Floyd's death on him. I mean, you just can't do it. I'm astonished. And there's no way this is not going to be a mistrial. I mean, the amount of public influence on the trial, I mean, that right there would be that's enough grounds right there for a mistrial. I mean, you had
George
every major
Floyd's
politician,
mural,
including the President of the United States, talking about it. He called the family.
Yeah, that day before the trial. If George Floyd murals are on the other side of the world, how did they get an impartial jury? There's no way that not a single juror on that case was truly unbiased.
And I guess
and that's exactly what I'm saying. This is the problem with these nationalized things. They can't be localized and handled privately. That should be a private matter, honestly. Like it is. Like I know it's not politically correct to say it though, because it's all about police brutality and all these things. But you look at the statistics, man. Like, not that it's right or wrong, and these are people, but like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, there's no way. And Maxine Waters was on Twitter, and all these politicians, like you said, the judge said something explicitly about Maxine Waters' comments, which I don't really have offhand. But I know that there was discrepancies there. And I also seen a nice meme that said, he put his hands behind his back. What if George would have done the same? And, it's like we have all these, like I said, everything is now political. It's like one side or the other. It falls really really easy there, and it shows like the death of objectivity, especially in the court of law, which you are supposed to be proven you're proven innocent until guilty beyond reasonable doubt, which that's what the defense was arguing, and that's your point you're bringing up about the fentanyl and stuff is like, not to mention the guy was all called over breaking federal law anyways, like copy fit money and
yeah. I mean, there's so much you could say about it. I mean, does somebody deserve to die because they counterfeited money? Of course not. But at what point, I mean, what's the officer? Is the officer just, well, he doesn't want to get in the car, I guess you got to go. Well, see you later. I mean, you just ship him down the road. I don't understand at what point somebody has to take control of the situation. I don't know what the right thing to do was in that situation. Like I said, I don't know if they necessarily, sure, he restrained him for what seemed to be a pretty unusual amount of time. I mean, 9 minutes is but he could have restrained any sober individual, could have been in that restraint for 20 minutes to a half hour, an hour, I don't care, 24 hours. You would not die. That does not cut off circulation of of oxygen to your system. It doesn't do it. That's not what the restraint does.
Crowder proved that too. Crowder did a thing around that time. Like obviously him, he did like whatever amount of time, but he had somebody kneel on his area the same, and he tried breaking down the angles. He was trying to do it real analytical and like try to be all, which I don't think is the most healthy thing for us to be talking about. Like in the private, this is like I said, dude. This is like it proves that people care less about the context and more about the context.
Okay,
like, what they're being told.
I didn't see that, but I guess that brings up a question: why
YouTube might have pulled it?
Why would the defense not do the same thing? If the whole case was structured around
the tactic,
Chauvin kneed on his neck, which isn't even entirely accurate, kneed on his neck for 9 minutes, and it cut off the oxygen in his system, and he died. That's what the whole prosecution's case was. Why wouldn't the defense? Perfect. You know what? Slap Chauvin on the ground. I'm going to knee on him I'll knee on him all day if you want. How long do you want me to do this?
How about you go further and get exact body doubles? You know, same height and weight, or pretty close, and same ethnicity.
How long do you want me to do this for? 9 minutes, which is how long he was on? 15, 20? I'll do it for an hour. I don't care. It's not going to do anything. It won't. It'll be uncomfortable. It'll hurt.
Yeah, why wasn't
it? This is not about being comfortable. It's about whether or not it was responsible for his death. This was a guy who was extremely high on drugs, and he had a heart condition. And he had COVID, which in any other scenario, this would have been ruled a COVID death. But this just happened to be convenient enough to be police brutality.
Racist police brutality.
I'm blown away. I mean, again, the whole standard of court is beyond reasonable doubt. You're telling me there was no doubt in anybody's mind.
And the objectivity of innocence, which is super important too.
Yeah.
Like them those jury members are supposed to believe that you're equal. You know, you're neither guilty or innocent, and then they prove it beyond reasonable doubt.
And unfortunately, because we've now come to the conclusion through due process that Chauvin is responsible for George Floyd's death, we can't even have honest conversations about things that could have prevented the situation.
Well, now, especially with the shooting that happened this week, that guy's already guilty, basically by the Chauvin off hearing, automatically guilty.
Sure, but I mean, if you look at the George Floyd scenario, well, it was said that he swallowed his stash, and that's why he had so much fentanyl in his system or whatever. Well, why did he swallow his stash? Because it's illegal, right? I mean, if you get pulled over with something legal in your car, you don't swallow it. Like, shit, my keys.
Let's decriminalize drugs then.
Perfect. He gets pulled over, his fentanyl system. Perfect. Did you just pass off a fake $20 bill? Yeah, perfect. Get in the car. Let's go. He'd be alive today.
Honesty is the best policy.
Not to mention the fact that the whole reason people have fentanyl and everything is because we have cheap black market heroin. Not that I'm advocating people use heroin by any means, but...
No, but some of those people got hooked because of pharmaceutical drugs, because they were fucking prescribed it for a toothache, and then they got hooked, and politicians got involved, and so big pharma politicians, and...
Right, and again, these are all conversations we could be having, but we've thrown all this healthy conversation out the window.
Racist cop.
White cop bad, black man Jesus.
It's literally hashtags, Dave. 4 or 5 words. Racist cop murders saint black guy. Family black man.
Yeah, and to your point too, with all this national public attention, I mean, not only can you not have a fair trial locally, is it possible to even have a fair trial at all? I mean, is there any place you can go in the country that people don't know about this?
No. Dude, it's on the other side of the world. It's on the other side of the world. Africa, all over the place.
There's nothing you could do regardless, even if you rule this a mistrial. What are you going to do? Take it a county over? I mean,
they're saying this is the standard for justice. Is this the new talking point for the headline? Is this going to be like post 9/11? I'm going to post George Floyd. You know, trials have now blah blah blah. They now have a separate jurisdiction. Like, are we going to introduce another branch of court oversight that's going to be impartial to juries? Like, we can't trust juries. Like, are we going to dice up
and then can we
natural
trust
rule
the oversight committees? And I mean, how deep does it go? I mean,
it's amazing because people think it's amazing. They're like, we need to revamp justice. We need to revamp justice. It's like, do you realize you've been adding laws? You know that? Like, they've only added laws. They're not making less laws.
Well, not to mention, I mean, this this also goes back to the irony of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden acting like they haven't caused all of this from their early policies. I mean, Joe Biden had we talked about the 1994 crime bill. Obviously, everyone knows about it. He co-authored the bill that put people like George Floyd in prison.
Shut up.
And
Dude.
all these
Ronald
policies
Reagan
are still
told
around
that drugs
today,
are
and we had
illegal.
Kamala Harris as a prosecutor putting nonviolent drug offenders in jail for much less than George Floyd did, and she laughed about that, thought it was hilarious. But now they get to again, it's all the theater of the left. I mean, they're the ones in charge of cinema, and they know how to do it. So I don't know.
And they have big tech on their side, so the search algorithm, the only thing that the right wing gets is just recycled in right wing. They've literally just, like, instead of a Venn diagram of everything smashing together, they're just separating us. You know, like, and they're gonna just keep doing it. And if this is the standard for justice, I mean, you just literally smashed the Magna Carta into a trillion pieces. Because something that was so crucial, history lesson, people fucking hate doing this to you. But the Magna Carta set the standard for all basic legal law that there is right now, which before the Magna Carta was unwritten. It was just spoken law. And if you watch a show like Vikings on Hulu, they talk about certain laws in there and all these things which are like cultural clan traditions. So the Magna Carta was a cultivation of all. Once again, civil liberties are a sliver to the human experience. And the Magna Carta was the first place that it wrote it down. It took Hammurabi's Code too. You know what I mean? Like, it's all of those things to the Magna Carta. And then civil liberties were based off that until the Constitution. Like, these are very important things, and we are neglecting to know them. They are everlasting. These are things that literally changed all of the human condition. And we're saying that vast government overwrite and change of those systems is the standard for justice. The standard for justice is to let the president get involved with every local police shooting or police case. It's amazing the president doesn't call, the 10 cops that saved people's lives that day. But he'll call George Floyd's brother and tell him, all that. And even though the Floyd family was given all that GoFundMe money and millions of dollars from the state to try to patch a hole for their trauma. Not that you can put a value on a life, but I can't put value on civil liberties, and that's what we're trying to bring up here. This is inconsequential, and this is unmeasurable to what it does to civil liberties.
Well,
it's a travesty. It's a travesty all the way around, quite frankly. I feel sorry for my country. I feel sorry for my countrymen and women. The people affected that can't grieve for both the shooting and the Floyd thing, like the trauma, that sucks. That's immortalized. You know what I mean? They'll drive through their neighborhood and think of it every day. It's tragic. Well, they'll probably move and buy 4 mansions like the founder of BLM because Black Lives Matter. But I mean, who knows, man? This is it's the legal system, the way it split people apart. I mean, I've had family members that not that we got in arguments, but it's like we have opposite opinions and they clash. And everything's hypercharged with this. This is, like I said, more high profile than any other legal thing ever. This is on the global. This was a global justice movement, and the same people that can create narratives are telling me what justice and the new standard for justice is.
Well, this is a pretty dark point in the podcast here. Were you December-tained during all this? Were you able to at least be somewhat?
Dude, actually, I got a thing. I felt like a kid this week, dude.
Ooh.
Like a 10-year-old boy, like a early adolescent. So I think I said last weekend I picked up a bunch of old video games. I don't know if I said this.
You did last week.
Okay, so I bought a Wii, right? Because I got the Switch a couple weeks ago. Decembertainment. I bought the Switch a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago by this point. But I talked about a podcast. I bought Zelda, blah blah blah. So it got me going. I was like, oh my god, I want to get a Wii so I can play some older Zelda games, right? So I contacted a guy I know, named Will. If you need any used video games, hit me up, people. I know a guy. And hey, I'm trying to help him up. He's having a kid. So yeah, I hit him up. He hooked me up with a Wii that was backwards compatible with GameCube games. So I'm like, oh, sweet. So my cousin had a GameCube and had all these awesome games. I was like, dude, let me get them. I'll buy them. He's like, my mom has them. So I went, saw my aunt, got the games. Cool, cool. So this whole time, like the whole procedure is just like reliving childhood, like the memories of playing games with my cousin, driving to my aunt's house, which is the house we played these games in. It was just very, it was perfect for me where I needed it, that family to ground me. It was just me and them, so it was very personal and intimate, and God, it was awesome. But so I got the games where I get home and I started playing them, and dude, video games have come so far, man.
Oh, it's unreal.
It's unreal, but there's something about the old games. I don't know if I can necessarily play them for hours and hours because obviously the addiction and that allure is kind of lost in a game you've played over and over. But yeah, I'm going crazy. I bought because this shit is so like cheap, it's used games. Like I'll buy a $10 used game all day, So I'm buying a couple Zeldas. The real ones I really care about is I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. And if you never played this,
I wasn't aware they had a Lord of the Rings game.
Oh, dude, they got a couple. This one's good. They got one for Two Towers, and then they got this is the other one I was playing, The Third Age. This is like old school Final Fantasy, like turn-based real-time strategy that you like pick your attack and then pick the guy that you attack. All Lord of the Rings, all tied into the mythology and the fantasy world, which I love so much. But it let me relive my childhood, man. Like everybody has their thing when they grow up, their hobby or their passion, and Lord of the Rings was like that was like the escape, growing up. So it was cool to get that back. So I was gonna ask you, do you play old games? Have you ever had the itch, or have you let the kid play your old games and stuff? Because that's been a discussion with him.
So yeah, he's played some old games. He does enjoy like, how they did the I don't remember what they called them, but Nintendo went back and retro did like the mini versions of the old consoles. Yeah. We have the Super Nintendo and Super Nintendo one, and the 64 is supposed to be coming out soon too, which will be awesome. But Nolan likes going on there and playing some of the old ones. He likes Pac-Man, of course. I think he liked Excite Bike, which was pretty solid. A couple of the Marios and everything. Yeah, some of the older games were pretty solid.
It's very cool because I notice I have siblings older, younger than me, basically every generation, up to my parents and back, And I got a younger brother that games and stuff, and we were talking about football. And he's like, what Madden did you have when you were younger? And I chuckled because I didn't have Madden. Yeah, I was like, do you know what Tecmo is? He's like, no, and I showed him. He's like, oh, I know that game. I was like, yeah, dude, we didn't have Madden. But video games is like the ultimate bridge builder for generations because you can both play the game as long as you're old enough to comprehend it and have a discussion about it, or you both unlock something. It's like as long as you use them tastefully, obviously, and not become an addict. I mean, my daughter and I, we play games together, man, and we laugh, and it's awesome. But it's just reliving the world, man. Like I put in Lord of the Rings this weekend while I was at my brother's. Like he put the movie in, so I came home and played the game. It was just like these layers of my childhood were like calling back to me. It's very relaxing spiritually. And to go further with the retro consoles, those are awesome because I'm having trouble. I got a wall mount TV, so there's that much room. I got to try to get those old aux cables in there. Yeah. So, like, I'm going to look to maybe see if I can buy adapters to make it to an HDMI cable or see if I can hook up multiple ones. And so, but yeah, basically, I can play all the Nintendo games. I have an N64, GameCube, a Wii, a Switch. I got a 3DS, so I have a large... And Xbox, they pretty much are saying that you can play all generations of Xbox going forward. So you said something interesting, that video games can bring people together, like different generations and stuff. I almost wonder if they could bring people together on a political sense. I almost wonder if there's something there. We could do like a political gaming. Do you remember when AOC went on a Twitch stream like a while back during the campaign? She wore a low-cut shirt, probably, right?
I would imagine she would, yeah. That's how a lot of Twitch streamers get views.
I mean, my bra just like... Stop simping, boys. Stop simping. Don't give women free attention. So yeah, that was part of my December. Other thing, I was reading comic books this week. I haven't done it in a while, but I was reading the Justice League book. It's like in a set. Very cool. It's a little abstract because of the way the story works and everything, but I did enjoy the vibrant artwork, considering it's been so damn dreary this week. It's rained a couple times, so it definitely helped. But yeah.
The thing about Justice League that always got to me, if I'm Superman, I have no interest in the Justice League.
Why not?
What are they going to do for me?
Because Batman can kill Superman.
First of all, I know that it happened in the comics, but let's take a second and be realistic about how we think about this. There is no way you're telling me some human schmuck like Batman could have beat up a superhuman person like Superman.
All right. See, you're conflating multiple things. Batman, yes, let me explain. Batman is the best fighter in DC, okay? Doesn't matter. If you were to remove...
Okay.
Hold on. If you remove...
Wait.
No!
Based on the comics, I'm saying based on the idea, bring it back to the macro. You're telling me how big is Batman? What is he? 6'5"? Is he a big
They're the
dude?
same height and weight, man.
Okay,
Superman is like 1 inch taller. Same height and weight.
Great. One's human, one's superhuman.
He's only superhuman with a red sun. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Superman cannot fight. He's just strong, right? So, like, if he didn't have super speed and he went to punch Batman, Batman could block it and everything. That's what's so important about him having kryptonite, man. Like, so he'll shoot him with kryptonite and he'll remove his superpowers. He can also hit him with a red sun lamp, and it sucks the power out of him.
Superman has one kryptonite. He has one kryptonite.
Yeah, but it can be weaponized.
Batman is human. He has every kryptonite that we have.
And Superman's also impervious to magic, so Batman can have something that's magical and also beat Superman with it. So that actually goes for anybody. And I'll go back further. We'll get off the Batman v Superman argument. Okay. The Justice League was actually formulated because Superman came to Earth and was fucking everything up when he was fighting aliens.
Which are real.
So they came together, like the Green Lantern and the Flash knew each other already because they're worked together. So they met up, and Batman naturally was like, hey, what's this guy? So he met up, and then they kind of almost fought each other, and then they were like, hey, should kind of like fight crime together, however the hell you want to put it. But, yeah, fuck Superman, he's a bitch.
Yeah, fuck Batman.
Listen. For the record, Superman is way easier to beat than you think, man. There's like plenty of people that can beat him. Green Lantern is the Green Lantern ring's most powerful weapon in DC Universe because it runs on willpower.
It runs on willpower.
Yeah, it's what makes them Green Lantern is they can harness the power of will. The different colors mean different things, but
other people's will or just his?
No, their person. That person can harness will with the ring, and then because their will is
whoever's wearing the ring harnesses their own will.
Yeah, they use their will to make constructs with the ring. So they use their will to make magical items and whatever they want. But they have to have extreme levels of will. It's not like your will to get up and put your Suge on. We're talking like unmeasurable amounts of will sometimes. Like some
would the ring subconsciously give you more will because you know you can do anything if you have the will?
Use your will. It lets you use your will because they channel the energy from the fucking Green Lantern god, basically. Because they always recharge their rings in a magic lantern. That's what gives it magic power. Yeah, Superman can be beat by a couple things, but Batman is like, people always go back to Batman because they always talk about how everything's gods and super powerful and stuff, but Batman is like the link of the average person to be like, yeah, I can relate to Batman because he's a person, but you can't relate to him because of his story, and that's where like the other people make up for it. Superman is like a, small town, Smallville. That's his nickname. He comes from a fucking farm, but he can lift the whole world up. Like that's a contradiction. He had to live his life a lie so that he didn't it built his character, which makes Superman
he can lift the whole world, but you're telling me Robert Pattinson can beat him down. Or Patterson, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, with prep time, yeah. Now, in all transparency, honestly, in all of comic book lore, like if you were to put a percentage on Superman versus Batman, Batman loses like every time, except for like 10 times ever out of 100 in the comic lore. But it's just like the point is like listen, the whole point about Batman having a plan is that he needs to have a plan. Like nobody else on the Justice League would come up with plans to kill the other members of the Justice League, but Batman does it in case it ever. He even has a plan for himself, and the plan against himself is the Justice League, because Batman is one of the smartest people. He's tactical. He has everything planned. He's the world's greatest detective. Like his plan, if he ever were to become evil, is the Justice League to stop him, because it would take all of them to stop Batman. That's why he's so badass, bro. But anyways, yeah, those were the good distractions this week. I was reliving my youth. I enjoyed it heavily, and yeah, man, video games definitely bring people together. I think there's a large stigma around it. Professional gaming's kind of breaking that, but moderation is everything. But I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
It's just there's such good stories and everything else, and especially right now, man, like good time to unplug a little bit. I haven't gamed in a while, so it was cool to get that. And that's all I got, bud. But yeah, I guess catch you all next week. Thank you for tuning in if you stuck around to the end. This is Ryan and Dave from December 1773. Comment, like, subscribe, engage, stay locked to the channel for everything. YouTube, Facebook, and yeah, 7 on Mondays Eastern. Peace, dude. Love you.
See ya. Thanks, everyone.